Hello, 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 everyone. We made it. We made it. Welcome to the last day of Black Maternal Health Week. I am your host for this lovely happy hour and celebration. I feel like I should have prepared better because I don't have anything in my glass. But I hope you all are cheersing to a wonderful week as we close it out right here with this wonderful celebration and conversation. I have all of the powerhouses in the building tonight for another very important conversation. But first, I'm Seisha Elmore. I'm your community organizing and engagement manager with New Voices for Reproductive Justice. And I'm excited to be here. And I've been excited to be with all of you all week long in community, doing the good work. Um, and so for today's conversation, we have two dynamic people just making waves in the Black maternal mental health space, to have a very genuine conversation with us about how to maintain our mental health well beyond that birthing and postpartum phase. So I am ready to dive into that conversation. We'll discuss the state of mental health and Black mamas and birthing people and beyond. We'll share some lived experience of our mental health maintenance, right, amidst the disparity in access to resources, and also discuss solutions that will inspire and impact the community to take care of their mental health, of your mental health. Um, I'm inspired to have this conversation because whenever I I feel the collective grief, right? Whenever tragedy happens, I feel like it rests on the shoulders of Black mamas, of our staples and our glue in our communities and our households. Um, and the question that I beg to ask today is, who is holding the mamas? And I wanna get into a bit of that today. When we talk about, Black maternal health and racism in Black maternal health, it's often related to like what we experience in the exam room. But we all know that motherhood lasts well beyond the exam room, right? We've had lots of conversations about mental health deserts, and maternal health deserts, and how that's related to distance, but also having access can create a or no access can create a desert as well. And so I really want to dive into how do we fortify our mental health as we encounter oppressive systems, as we carry grief. I heard a quote today that said that grief will last forever, like grief will last for the rest of our lives. Um, and even though that you'll never be the same, like you'll collect the pieces back to yourself, you'll never be the same, but you will be whole. So it's like when your pieces come back to yourself, they fill you up with new and different things. So you might not be the same person you was before you experienced grief, but you will be a whole person moving forward. And we want to just encourage our mamas to move forward in wholeness. So without further ado, we're going to move this thing right along. Okay. And I'm going to bring to you the one and only. You saw her all week. Okay. Holding it down in the streets, in the park, at the Capitol. None other than the founder and executive director of Oshun Family Center, Salima McNeil. Hi,
Hey, y'all.
Salima.
Happy
Okay,
day.
glasses gang. All right.
I heard it was happy hour, so let's
It
go.
was. And I was talking to Michelle earlier and I was like, yes, I'm going to make a drink. I'm going to put it in my glass. And then time just got away from me and I was doing last minute logistics. So I'm cheersing with my water. Boo. I know.
So
But
much.
cheers.
Yeah.
Welcome to the last day of Black Maternal Health Week. And I just wanted to check in with you about how you are feeling, how the organizer of Black Maternal Health Week in the city of Philadelphia is feeling.
I'm tired, honey. I'm tired. But I feel so good. The week went exceedingly well, and just the collective healing that we can see happening across events and across the city feels like a step in the right direction. As you talk about maternal mental health and how we try to tackle those things, it is that village approach that helps lift them out. Even as a therapist, I don't think it's the only way to heal or to be successful. You don't have to only go to therapy in order to achieve the maximum or optimum level of health and wellness that you want to accomplish in your life, but it is a holistic approach, which is how we built out the week for Black Maternal Health Week this year. So you was at brunch on Friday, wasn't you?
I wasn't at brunch, but I was at the Unity dinner,
You was
which
at the
I feel
Unity dinner
which I feel
because
like was its own vibe. I walked in, I was like, okay. I was like,
yes,
maybe I
yes,
should have, been a little less casual. The people came out, honey. They came out. They was
yes.
coming out. I really enjoyed myself. It was a beautiful display of community. And I'm glad that I got the opportunity to see you unveil the new wellness center that is in the works. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you so
So do you
much.
want to tell the folks more about that? Because I'm excited to see it.
Absolutely. I was gonna say about brunch because you wasn't there. You missed
Yeah,
a time. A time was absolutely had. We
I'm
had
sure.
Syncopation, the violinist that you seen at dinner.
Yes,
They were there performing in our magazine box. Because I just like a little sprinkle of black and bougie. Yep, because
yes.
that's what we gonna do.
We
And
love
then we just have a
that.
good
Sprinkle,
time.
sprinkle.
Right, sprinkle, sprinkle. Yes, absolutely. So that's why we had our afternoon entertainment with our drag performances, and we had a group karaoke and really just coming together as like a unit to have a good time. We also had the aspects of the retreat, so henna, massage, foot baths. It was really a good time for birth workers to be able to let their hair down and experience something that was a little different. We put our gift bags together and we like to take care of mind, body, and soul. So toothpaste, you got toothpaste, soap, lip balm, and a rose because we like to give everybody their flowers while they're here for self-care, snatch your own soul. So it was
Yeah,
a good time. And
it
then we had
sounds
our community baby
exciting.
shower. Yeah, it was
I'm
very
sad I
exciting.
missed it. Now I'm gonna register early next time.
Absolutely. Listen, and we've already been thinking about ways in which it could be better next year, but also staying close to it being pretty intimate because sometimes events get too big and they lose those special touches. And so we don't want to do
Yeah.
that. We had our baby shower on Saturday at Smith Memorial Playground. It was really good. I have all of the things included that makes me feel super nostalgic, like a drill team or a drum line that came through to provide some entertainment. But people left with pack and plays. Thank you to you all because y'all came through in the clutch in the 11th hour. So thank you. Thank you. So those parents can have pack and plays for their kids,
Pleasure.
strollers and everything. We did do our wellness event, was our yoga in the park on Sunday and our training on Monday. What you're talking about is the donor dinner. And the Tuesday we was in Harrisburg. Y'all got to check out our IG stories and to look at what we doing on Oshun_family_center on IG so you can see the difference in what it looked like last year for us to go to the Capitol versus what it looked like this year. Our region really showed up and showed out. So that's a little highlight over the week. And we are, what are we doing? We winding down?
Yes, we are.
Yes, we are.
Cheers. I'm gonna have to take my wine down afterwards.
Yes. Yes, because then that'll be like the symbolic ending of a really great and amazing week where we get to uplift and amplify. And so, a little bit what you were asking me earlier was about the renderings that we were able to share with you all during dinner at Amina Restaurant in Old City, because we are in the process of acquiring our own building. We're currently under contract for a building in the Germantown section of Philadelphia.
So exciting.
So we just need a small $5.5 million.
That's
With
it. That's all.
that's it, that's all. And I know we got some great people that sit in some high places that this is nothing but a sprinkle, little drop in the hat. So
Sprinkle,
I
sprinkle.
sprinkle, sprinkle. So I welcome all of you on this journey with us as we acquire this property, how we retrofit it out, and you were able to see what it would look like when you walk in and what it would look like for you to sit in our doula suite. So, what did you think?
I loved it. I love just like it looked like a very like serene atmosphere. And I'm excited that Oshun is just going to have a home somewhere that is just all place Oshun. All things Oshun. So I'm super excited. It looks comfortable. It looks serene. I think that it'll be important, particularly to Black birthing folks, to feel like they have a safe space that they can go into and get the resources and the mental health help that they need, as well as the lactation services that they need, as well
Like,
as
run
the
it up.
X, Y, and Z that they need, all
Yeah.
the things. And we're just excited. I mean, like you said to me at the end of the dinner, we've been in these Black maternal health streets. And I
Yes.
was like, oh, you know what? I feel like I kind of like grew into this and had an opportunity to watch y'all grow along the way. So I'm super proud, and I'm sure community is super excited for you.
That makes me feel so good because I do look back at the last 5, 6, 7 years as to where we were, where we are, and where we're going. And it feels so good to have people that are still represented from our humble beginnings still around to see where we're going and still on the ride with us to see where we land, and to support along the way. So that collective collaboration, there's really that unity in our community, which was the title of the dinner, because everybody who was invited or at the dinner is somebody who has sewn into the organization, whether it be a community partner, a donor, or a sponsor for Black Maternal Health Week. So thank you so much for being there. And we have so many things in store. So stay in tune because we have some community conversations coming up where we will invite the community to see the renderings, to understand the process, and to have input on where we go moving forward.
Yes, I am so excited for that. I'm gonna let you rest. I was like, we can get into all the things because personally, I'm ready to start. I had so many ideas flowing to me after Advocacy Day about what
Yay.
we can do and uplift for next Black Maternal Health Week. But we
Mhm.
all know that the work does not stop. With the end of Black Maternal Health Week, we will still be working diligently in between now and the next 365 days to make sure that Black birthing people get the love and the care, the support, and the resources that they need. And we are grateful that Salima and your crew at Oshun and the Maternal Wellness Center is at the helm of that.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you all so much. I'm gonna go drink some tea because y'all hear I'm a little raspy, but I really appreciate the continued just uplifting and being able to collectively amplify the voices that matter in this movement. So thank you all so much. Give me a
Yes.
tea.
Get your rest, get your rest, get your rest. Okay, so we just heard from Salima. Salima is the executive director and founder of Oshun Family Center, a longtime partner of New Voices for Reproductive Justice, and the Philadelphia partner with Black Mamas Matter Alliance, who are the creators of Black Maternal Health Week. And I can't believe it's coming to a close, but my body is saying it's time to wind down. So I'm glad that y'all chose to wind down with us this evening as we are jumping right into this conversation. I have two dynamic powerhouses in the maternal mental health space, the maternal wellness space overall. But tonight we are going to concentrate our conversation on Black maternal mental health. First, I would like to bring to our virtual stage Jabina Coleman. Jabina Coleman is an internationally board certified lactation consultant and licensed clinical social worker, is known nationwide and beyond as the lactation therapist due to her vast catalog of presentations, keynote addresses, and workshops about perinatal health, especially those struggling with perinatal mood disorders and the intersection of lactation and infant feeding health for birthing families. Jabina is a visionary and a community impactor. She dedicates herself to bridging gaps and combating health disparities, particularly in Black maternal health equity inequities. As the co-founder of Breastfeeding Empowerment Awareness, or BAE, y'all know him, you see him out there, BAE, she has organized community events to raise awareness and shift the narrative for families in the tri-state area and curate a space for infant feeding and mental health support. Jabina has earned acclaim, receiving the prestigious United States Breastfeeding Committee Cultural Change Maker Award in 2018 and became a co-investigator on the Patient-Centered Outcome Institute funded clinical trial, the Change of Heart Study, a true collaboration between Temple University and community partners in 2011, where she serves as the director of perinatal health equity, a quality improvement in the program for maternal health equity. Is a mouthful, y'all. I feel like I can go on and on and on, but I want to bring Jabina on because she's going to tell you all about everything that she has going on and everything that she is doing to support Black birthing families. Welcome to the program, Jabina.
Hey y'all, welcome to
Yes,
the
Jabina got
glass.
her glass too. I'm mad too because everybody got their Oshun glass, and mine's is
Yes,
like
indeed.
just out of reach. It's like just okay.
Yes,
I'm about to
indeed.
put
Well,
you on
cheers,
pause.
cheers,
I will run
cheers.
into it right quick. But cheers to you. Welcome to the last day of Black Maternal Health Week. You made it. We are here. And I'm going to bring on our next dynamic panelist. We have the Representative Gina H. Curry, as she said yesterday at the Capitol. State Representative Gina H. Curry represents the 164th Legislative District in Delaware County. That happens to be my district. Gina is an educator with more than 20 years of experience working with youth and families and is an advocate for equitable funding for education, economic development, and the need for affordable and safe housing. She brings to Harrisburg a strong understanding of community needs, fairness, and grassroots advocacy in education and real estate and housing, which helps her fight for equity for all Pennsylvanians. She also has experience in the behavioral health field as a clinical supervisor, behavior specialist, and therapeutic consultant to children and families. She also is an active member of the Chester Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated and the EU PEAT, Prison Education Advisory Board, where the goal is to support education rights and healthy reintegration for incarcerated residents to provide hope outside of the bars. All of that is laced in reproductive justice. So I'm happy to have her on our team. Welcome to the virtual stage, Representative Gina Curry.
Thank you. Thank you. I am in the car and I apologize that I can't be on screen because I am in the car with a friend of mine who is holding the phone. And we are on 76, and you know how treacherous it can be on 76. So you
Yes,
just get
indeed.
my voice because both hands are on the wheel.
Well,
But
more
I
than
appreciate you having me. Yeah, we made our way. We were on the floor a little late today,
Mhm.
unexpectedly. And so once you leave Harrisburg after 3 o'clock, this is what you get.
Mm-hmm.
Understood completely. We actually had a time getting back yesterday, but that's
Yeah.
another story for another time. But we are certainly thrilled that you are able to join us today and lend us some of your wisdom on this topic. And we understand that you may have to cut out a little bit early, so I'm going to try to get to the juice of the question so we can dive right into this conversation and folks can really just rest in the beautiful words that y'all have to offer. So to kick us off, I'm going to ask each of you if you can share your connection to the Black maternal health work and more specifically Black maternal mental health. And Jabina, you can start.
Absolutely. So my connection is both personal, and I think like many of us that's in the field and doing this work, it is a personal connection. And so I am also a mother of a 20, soon to be 20-year-old and 10-year-old. And so just about 20 years ago, after the birth of my son, I experienced postpartum major depressive disorder and postpartum uh, PTSD and OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder.
Mm.
And unbeknownst to me, I didn't know that's what I experienced. And until he was about 12 years old, until I was well into my professional career as a clinical social worker.
Oh,
And
wow.
so maternal mental health first comes from this place of personal experience. And then a lot of my work has been driven by that experience in itself. As a clinical social worker, I've worked in health centers and women's health clinics and seeing the impact that it has on Black women specifically, especially when we don't have access to resources and support. And then also working in the space in hospital settings and recognizing how limited resources, access, information, education around perinatal mental health the lack of understanding from providers. And so being able to bridge that connection between the community and providers to really understand what is perinatal mental health, how can we support ourselves as individuals in the community, and also as providers and professionals, what you need to know to support clients in the community and patients in the community.
Yeah, that's so important. I really would like folks to leave this conversation today feeling like they are not alone in this journey, and also feel like there are tangible ways to support themselves through whatever it is that they're going through, because we're all going through something, right? And it's about the tools that we have
Absolutely.
in order to navigate it. Rep Curry, how about you? What's your connection to the Black maternal health work, and specifically Black maternal mental health as well?
Yeah, I have a connection with the mental health part of maternal health, but really how I really got started into looking at this work. I'm a mom of three myself, and have lived experience. But really, this work came when my hospital that's right up the street closed its labor and delivery unit um, at Delaware County Memorial Hospital, and jumping into the space where we're looking at, where the maternal deserts are. And of course, when you talk about maternal deserts, everybody thinks, oh, there's no maternal care. Well, we also have access zones. And so, access zones are those spaces where, like in Delaware County, we might not have a full maternal desert, but we have areas that really are limited in access, which has caused a major crisis in our maternal health space here in the Commonwealth, because we have a lot of those zones. And so I'm offering, you know, legislation around that. But the piece of legislation that I have that's coming out with Rep. Fiedler and Rep. Borowski um, is the legislation working with the March of Dimes, um, 2130, 2127, and that is universal postpartum screenings. So we know that some moms get, postpartum screenings, but everybody's not getting them. And so what we want to see happen legislatively is that it becomes a universal best practice, that we are working with not only the OBs, but we're also working with, um, the pediatricians. Um, hold on, I'm sorry. Right, right.
It's
The
okay. We know you on the
pediatricians.
road.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. Oh my god.
It's okay.
Um, so the pediatricians, to get these folks, you know, to get them. Hold on, we're gonna mute this. We're gonna mute this because it's still talking to us. So basically, we want to make sure that every mom and birthing individual gets that help, right? But one of the things that I want to say, and Jabina could probably understand this as well in her work, is that um, for black moms, sometimes we don't always want to be transparent on those screenings because of our fear of, not being strong enough, potentially having the threat of a child or our babies being taken away. These are some of the real issues that we have seen in the Black mama space. And, today I was in a meeting with some of the managed care companies that I had a meeting for this morning. And basically, we were talking about these substance abuse issues that come up afterward. That has to do with mental health, back to using substances to help them.
Rep Curry, you're kind of cutting in and out. If you can hear me, I want to move on to the next question, but you know how you do that, and then the person pops back on and still be talking.
Uh-huh. I will say, as she was saying, in terms of screenings, we know why people aren't being truthful and honest and really transparent, because they're seen as inadequate, or we, fearing the system, because we know the system has not, doesn't trust Black women to make decisions for themselves and their babies and their families. And so it's important, like she said, that we have this information, um, to underscore that.
Yeah. It's systemic, and right, that's the underpinnings of like the Black woman trope. Like we're
Mhm.
not supposed to um be weak or vulnerable. There's
Exactly.
an expectation that we carry everything on our backs and are able to take care of everything, house, home, hold down the job, pay all the bills, make sure
All the
kids
things.
are
You
fed
better
and
not cry.
clothes and all
You
the
better not
things,
show
right?
emotions. Right, exactly.
Right. You don't really get an opportunity to skip a beat, because for some reason that's the expectation. And
Mhm.
as soon as we, drop a piece of that expectation, it feels like we're not doing our job, or we think that other
And
people
then we
think we're not
internalize
doing
that.
our job.
Many of us
Right.
have internalized that, and that comes with the shame and the guilt. When you don't, you're unable to uphold whatever standard that standard is, right? And we talk about the superwoman power, this, just being the Black superwoman and just being able to identity around doing all the things. And then what happens when you can't do all the things? What happens when you
Yeah.
can't show up, like this ideal cookie cutter mother that we see on social media, and that the media has portrayed as motherhood.
Yeah. One thing that the
Yeah.
commissioner said there's Russ Curry. Yay.
Yeah, so sorry about that. We
No
finally stopped
worries.
the car, but um no, exactly what Jabina just said. I think there's a lot of expectation, and I tell this kind of personal story about the fact that, I had two children 21 months apart. I had a husband, I was professional, I had, got my graduate degree, with all intents and purposes, I was like in that space, like, oh, you're a mom now, you have this going on, you know what I mean? But, I was never, I talked to Dr. Saki from Allegheny Health Network. We talked about this. I was like, I was never going to put on that screening, oh, I'm overwhelmed and I can't do this, because that showed failure on my part. So what we want to do with and we know it doesn't show failure on your part, it actually shows that you need some advocacy work, some work, some support, some additional supports beside what your family can give you, and what it looks like, right? And so with that being said, um we're looking not only to have universal screenings, but to really look at what those screenings, that they're culturally competent, you know what I mean, that they're ready to actually serve the Black mamas and Black birthing individuals that we are here to serve. Not to put them in another position where they're like, oh, am I going to be questioned, or is CYS going to, can you shut the trunk? CYS going to come and take my babies. Like, we want to really make sure that women are feeling comfortable with these screening questions, and that they know that they're going to get resources and help, not to make them feel threatened or harmed. That's key, right? And
Yeah.
so we can talk about universal screening all we want. We can talk about universal nurse visitors, but we want to make sure people feel that they can get resources and not be harmed. I know I was sitting with Sarah Goulet yesterday from DHS, and she said the very thing. The goal is not to split families apart. The goal is to give the resources so that families feel protected. And we know that this implicit bias, this racial injustice, where folks are feeling threatened, that we need to change this system, because one of the gentlemen today in my MCO meeting, he talked very clearly. It was another state, but he said he watched a whole situation unfold where a white family, whose the mother had been on drugs, they got to keep their baby, And the same mirrored situation with a Black family, they took that baby away. So we want to make sure that we're protecting these families, that we change that culture, that we make sure these resources are in place for the insurance companies, all the way down to the grassroots, organizations that are making this happen on the ground, and making sure these organizations like yourself are funded and being given the proper resources to really do the work on the ground. That's where I am with it. We want to make sure that mental health, I mean, Melissa Patty said in our policy briefing, mental health, postpartum mental health, um, it's the leading cause of postpartum mortality in women and birthing people. It is the leading cause. That was her statistic. And so when we think about, the physiological part, the high blood pressure, the comorbidities that add in, when you're talking about someone's mental health, you know what I mean? We have to
Mhm.
be serious about this. And not only that, we have to make sure we have mental health providers that are culturally competent, that understand the situations that women are undergo and the weathering that Black people and Black families go through in their own lives with income and all of that stuff. I mean, I could go on and on and on. But these are the
Absolutely.
things that we really have to be paying attention to, are the social determinants of health. And this is how we really go in and attack the deficits where mental health are concerned. I hope that was helpful. We are going to be putting that bill, 2127, House Bill 2127, postpartum screenings, co-primes, myself, Rep Curry, Rep Fiedler, and Rep Borowski, hopefully through the Health Committee on May 8th. So stay tuned, May 8th.
Well, thank you for sharing it, and thank you for making those important connections for us. And all too often, or something that we pay attention to as a Black woman serving organization, are the ways that Black women are criminalized when they have to move through these systems. And we do see it in child services, and we do see it in the medical and healthcare system. So Jabina, I'm going to jump down a little bit, and I would like for you to talk about in what ways does navigating these oppressive systems as Black women and other Black marginalized people impact our mental health specifically?
I think Rep Curry spoke to a number of them, and so especially when we think about weathering and the impact that also navigating racist systems and systemic racism overall.
And
We've
can you
seen
touch on weathering for people who may not be familiar with what weathering
weathering.
is?
Absolutely, it's
Mhm.
the impact that racism and other impacts around social determinants of health impacts the body, impacts us on a not just a cellular level, but our emotional health, our mental health, and just like this increased allostatic load, right? So just years. We're talking about 400 years of slavery. We're talking about we're still enduring oppression, and so really moving through this as an individual. So just being able to move through that, and how that just impacts us on a cellular level, overloads and into our children, into our family systems, into our communities, and so that also impacts our mental health. um, we talk about the statistics around maternal mortality and morbidity. 50% of women who die in the first year postpartum have a mental health diagnosis. And I
Mm.
think that's what Rep Curry was talking about when she mentioned Melissa Patty, right? So 50% of women who die in the first year postpartum experience a mental health diagnosis, have a mental health diagnosis. And
Mm.
so just recognizing that the impact that has on understanding what's happening to your body. If you're living in constant stress and trauma, and not being able to identify when things are occurring, and on top of it, providers aren't listening to you, and you don't have access to resources or information. And so thinking about that, about the weathering, thinking about just emotional adjustments, and dealing with systems, not being heard, not being seen, not being understood, thinking about the intersectionality that adds layer to the complexity of mental health just in general. And I also think about access to resources, like true access
Yeah.
to resources with racially concordant care. We had Oshun on earlier, and as being one of the founding members of the Maternal Wellness Village, it's really important when we think about um, racially concordant care, having someone that has either lived experience or understands your experience is,
Absolutely.
so impactful to the care that we're able to provide and receive. Um, when we think about oppressive systems, just being able to have to push up against microaggressions every day. And Seisha, you nodding, so you understand it. There's
Completely, completely.
right, and then just on top of that, the intersection of being a Black woman, and so the toll that it takes on our mental health, our physical health, our spiritual health, and then being able to have to do a screening, right? So we're talking about universal screening, but do a screening and then not be able to be truthful, transparent because of fear. And so there's so many reasons why the mental health statistics are what they are, but also thinking about the toll it has. I was in awe this weekend or this past week, and just being around other birth workers and people on the ground in the field. I've been doing this work for over 15 years, and seeing where we've transitioned to, but also recognizing that in these spaces as Black women, it also takes a toll on us. And so I hope we get to also talk about how the work that we're doing also impacts us physically, mentally, emotionally, because this is a heavy lift. And we know as Black women, we're going to get the job done regardless, but it is also a heavy lift and a heavy load. And it was so great to also just be around and continue to be around women, birth workers, professionals that are supporting the work. And supporting each other in the work, because when you can step up, and then when you can step back, because that you have someone to your left or right that's able to support you in this work. And so when we think about navigating oppressive systems, I think that it's important as birth workers and people who are on the ground in organizations that we continue to commune with each other, so that we have safe spaces to support our own mental, emotional health as we're continuing to do this work with the community as well.
Yeah, thank you
Yeah,
so much for
Jabina,
sharing that, Jabina.
can I just make a real quick comment to what Jabina
Absolutely.
just said? I
Mm-hmm.
think we were having that conversation before we left the Capitol today. Like, what are you going to do to take care of yourself? And I was like, I got to go to work tomorrow.
Exactly.
And here's the thing. If we don't do that, like, I'm really trying to set that boundary for myself as well. And so it's really important. And a part of that conversation is, how are we modeling for the younger ones that are coming up? They're seeing us overfunction in so many ways, and that's part of who we are as well. But it really does speak to our own health, right? It speaks to who we are, and why people feel like we're so strong, in most cases. And so it is clearly important for us as the workers on the ground to get it done, but it is also very important for us to have our own plan. We talk about having a birthing plan, but have your mental health plan. Like, what's that
Exactly.
look like?
Absolutely.
Yes, and
Right.
that is what I talk to my clients about. That's what I share with the community. And I'll also be a little bit more transparent, because I'm just coming back on the scene just a little bit, because I intentionally just stepped back for a number of reasons. And this year just it felt different, because I was able to take time for myself, because I was able to fall back to
Yeah.
reevaluate. And then I also knew that there were other people on the ground doing the work, that I didn't have to do it all by myself. And so
Yeah.
it feels good to be able to do that now, and just be re-energized. And now I'm just like, hey, I got it. Who else? Who want to take a step back now? Because I'm back,
Right.
right? And so I think
Yeah.
that's also important in terms of how do we model this, so that folks who are new to the scene and have more energy than us, are able to kind of get out there and do the work with support.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
love that.
That's real
I
talk.
also
Yeah.
had to, like, really coming into this space and coming into the reproductive justice work. Had to be very mindful about my self-care because I was just taking everything in. And naturally you're like, what's the solution for this? I want to fix this. How can we help them? How can we? And it was becoming such a load that, I just have learned to listen to my body, right? If I'm online and I'm feeling triggered, I need to put the phone down. I need to step away. Sometimes I tell people, I'll be like, up, I'm off here for the rest of the night because I can't
Exactly.
take no more, right? And there's
Or I'm
so
gonna delete
much
the app. Exactly.
yeah happening around us, and you're literally just it's just constant, just taking it in. And we are just human beings after all. I liked what the commissioner from Pike County said yesterday. Her name escapes me, but she said we're super women, we're not superhuman, right? And so still just very much embodying that we are human. Women are human
We are
people,
human. Absolutely.
Yep.
despite what the loads that people try to put on you, and people try to put that superhuman characteristic on us. But we need care. We need care just like anybody
Just like
else
anybody else.
would.
Mhm.
We do. We definitely do. Her name is Commissioner Krista Caceres, and she is fire.
Yeah.
Okay, she's
Yeah,
fire.
I
Yeah.
really appreciated her testimony yesterday, and I was just blown
Yes.
away that there's a county in Pennsylvania that does not have a hospital with over
Yeah.
58,000 residents. That is
That is
mind
wild.
blowing to
Yep,
me.
it
No,
is.
but the problem, look, that's happening in more ways than you know. I
Mm,
mean, and this is the issue, right? We actually had a bill passed today through the House. It was one of the contentions was the non-compete of doctors, not being able to leave to go serve somewhere else. I mean, it was a
mm,
huge contention. It did pass through, but we have to see if the Senate will pass it. I mean, it's going to help spaces that have no care,
yeah.
and it really these are the things, the little things that absolutely we're talking about the physiological, right? And now we're talking about mental health, but these different pieces that will help Black maternal health, like they're so connected, and we don't even know. And that's why the education piece, you having this call tonight,
Mhm.
educating folks that will be listening, having the conversations, and continue to educate those folks that may not be able to get this information. It's so important. So thank you for having this.
Absolutely. I'm just trying to bridge these gaps. And I was inspired to have these conversations because I feel like oftentimes when we talk about Black maternal health, we're talking about our encounters when we go into these exam rooms or when we go into labor and have our children, or even, one year after. But I'm like, what happens after that, right? Like, who is really holding the moms, or how are the mothers and the mamas and the birthing folks being held through the entire experience? This country overall has proven time and time again that there are other priorities than the actual living human being that is in front of us, that we can all touch, feel, and experience. And they need care. We need care. And
Here.
so that's the strongest point of advocacy for me. And I want to jump to you, Rep Curry, because I'm not sure how much time we have left with you. But as the co-chair of the Pennsylvania Black Maternal Health Caucus, and the introduction of the Pennsylvania Black Maternal Health Mommy Bus, yay! What
Yeah.
is the importance? Because I also heard you mention like other legislation that's in the works that supports better outcomes of having like this type of legislation that's going to support better outcomes for um, Black birthing people. And I also know that you are a member of the Mental Health Caucus. Are there bills that are moving in that space as well that is going to benefit our community?
Well, I can say this. I don't have all the bill numbers in front of me, right? But I know that members of the caucus are really working hard to combat the issues that we're having around mental health. And the governor's budget proposes mental health remediation as well. And so we know that we need to not only, invest more in the mental health area because everyone needs it. We also need to make sure that we're investing and building the pipeline of good therapists, right? One of the things that I know that a lot of us as Black women, we're like, we want somebody who looks like us to be a therapist. And, looking for therapy from a Black woman is not easy, mainly because they're not reimbursed. We come down to the dollars again. It's like, you have good insurance. You want a Black therapist, a Black woman therapist, and you're told that you have to pay $150 a session and that she needs to see you every week. Well, you do that math. You do
Mhm.
that math, and
Mhm.
let's figure that out about, you know, what we need to do. And then to the therapist, I feel for them too because they're just not getting reimbursed. And it's a very difficult space for them. And then it starts, I've heard conversations where, therapists will say things like, well, you need to invest in yourself. You invest in everything else. Well, that's just not fair to Black women. We want
Mhm.
women, we want therapists that look
Mhm.
like us, but we're not supporting it in a way that we can have these therapists that look like us. And so these are real conversations where, we can't start, talking about who's investing in what. We need to invest in it as our communities and in our managed care companies to say, look, we want to, and in our education system, who is going to get out here and be a great therapist? We can't choke people at the beginning because they can't make the money that they need to survive themselves. And so these are some of the conversations that are being had in the caucus. And also, when we think about other maternal health legislation that'll be coming down, you all know we did introduce the Momnibus, which is, I keep saying, 8 great bills. A lot of them are ambitious. Today, we sat through a committee meeting in health, and we saw how it was rejected because of inclusivity. Um, I was very happy to announce that we basically unanimously passed HR, which is House Resolution 373, to acknowledge Black Maternal Health Week 2024 at the Capitol. And it was a joyous time a week ago today. But today, we got down to the nitty gritty to pass the first two bills, Rep May's bill, um, on blood pressure cuffs.
Mhm.
And we also um, we looked at Rep Cephas's bill on reimbursement for doulas. And because we were having inclusivity conversations about birthing individuals, we were quickly turned inside out and turned around because we did not get the vote out of that committee. And here's the issue. We need to be able to protect all folks in this commonwealth. I think the issues we're going to bang into is around the language. And so we are going to continue to make these bills. And, in my caucus, we're going to continue to be inclusive of all folks because we're here and we're elected to protect all folks, however they identify. And so that is a key component for me. And looking at what legislation we bring forward and how we're here to protect folks in this commonwealth through their mental health journey, through their maternal health journey, and beyond, because we know health equity is harming health inequities, I'll say, is harming our space. So we need to be continuing to fight this fight on every side. And we know we have those ambitious goals to do that with the Momnibus.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. Um, Yeah, I actually have the Momnibus here. I'm not going to go through it all, but the bills are very ambitious, and I imagine, well, what we believe in New Voices and in reproductive justice, that liberation will happen for all when the most marginalized of us is liberated, right? So it's almost like
Yes.
the notion of, Black Lives Matter versus all lives matter. Well, all lives can't matter until Black Lives Matter, right? And
Amen.
so in this
Correct.
case, like, we cannot reach the fullness of maternal wellness without the most marginalized of that group at this point, which statistics show is Black women and Black birthing people. So
Yeah.
if they are able to reach optimal outcomes, then all of us
Everyone will
will
take
be
care
able
of.
to reach
Exactly.
optimal
I've been saying it
outcomes.
straight along, right? I've been saying if we fix these problems with the numbers we're seeing with Black maternal health, then we're going to fix the problems for all maternal health. We are going to, if we fix these problems with Black maternal health, then we're going to create stronger communities. We're going to have stronger families. We're not going to have families like the Gilmore family who were devastated by the loss of their daughter back in 2019.
Hmm.
We wouldn't even be there yesterday if it wasn't for this particular family and the vision that A Home from Shayna had, literally, because Rep Cephas was the one who really moved after this happened in her own district. And so these are the conversations, right? Like when we look at legislation, we want to make sensible legislation that protects all people here in the Commonwealth. And so if we're going to get down to the conversation about, who identifies as who, we're not focusing on the issue of what's really happening. And what's really happening is that people are dying. People are dying. And so we have these numbers, they're clear. So we need to all focus on solutions that will prevent this from happening to the next family.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing that, Rep Curry. And I'm going to pop it back to Jabina. I really want to talk about your initiative. Everybody wants to hold the baby, but who will hold the mother? So, how is this applying to our mental health?
So I will say, I'm also a lactation consultant, and in my work, clinical work, maybe about 5 or 7 years ago, I met a mom who I was working with just for breastfeeding, and she clearly had signs of anxiety. And I recognized she didn't have any mental health support. And so it wasn't until I asked her about anxiety, I asked her about her mental health history, that she kind of like the shoulders went down, became more relaxed and open, and a little bit more transparent about just the anxieties of becoming a new mom and not having no one to turn to, not having family to turn to because they didn't understand what she was feeling, and just the shame and the guilt that came with some of the thoughts that she was having. And so it was at that time where I said, everyone comes in the house and they're like, and she said, everyone's just so focused on the baby. But what about me? And that was that pivotal moment for me where it was just like everyone wants to hold the baby, but who will hold the mother? And that really just focuses on awareness, access, accountability, and action. And I think we're in the state of action. We're also need to hold folks accountable. And so really bringing awareness to the community, because when we think about mental health, folks just know postpartum as postpartum depression,
Hmm.
but no one's talking about the continuum. No one's talking about postpartum OCD and PTSD. We're not talking about, we hear in the media postpartum psychosis, and then folks are like, I'm not going to share that I'm having scary thoughts because it might be postpartum psychosis. And we know that although postpartum psychosis is not as prevalent as postpartum depression, people are unaware and uninformed. And so bringing awareness to the community so that people are empowered and encouraged to share and talk about what their experiences are. And then, it's our vision for people to have access to good therapy, right? We're talking about therapists who understand perinatal mental health, understand the client that's in front of them. And so making sure that that is, a necessity. We're thinking about, I was thinking about the universal postpartum screening, and I'm like, yeah, we get postpartum screening, but we need the next step, which is who are we referring folks to? Like, folks need to have that next step in place, because we'll get postpartum screenings and we'll have positive screens, but we need to make sure we have organizations like Oshun. We need to make sure we have folks that are on the ground to be able to answer the call and be able to support. And then holding legislation accountable, which Rep Curry, shared, and taking action. So we're doing this action not just at Black Maternal Health Week, but we're on the ground, supporting families. We're on the ground having conversations with our hospital systems, with institutions, and community-based organizations that are supporting Black birthing people.
Yeah, I was so excited when we had our first one-to-one and you said that you were a reproductive psychotherapist. And I was like, is this the person I've been looking for that can speak to my people? Because how does one go about finding a reproductive psychotherapist or even knowing that that's what you need?
Right. And it's not just about perinatal mental health. We're talking about infertility issues. We're talking about loss. We're talking about, reproduction, especially as Black women, which we know folks are struggling with fibroids and endometriosis and a number of things that we are not putting out there on the forefront to talk about. And so it's important as a reproductive psychotherapist that those are the conversations and the spaces that we have available, because we know that they don't exist.
Yeah. And this everyone wants to hold a baby, who will hold the mother. That touched me in a certain way. So I have this, y'all can see it here, this painting behind me. I'm going to grab it actually. And this is a painting I did, and it's, however you interpret it, but
I love
clearly the woman
that.
is the forefront, but she's holding the child on her shoulders, and there is someone that's holding her. And the what came to me was like, no matter what you are holding, you still deserve to
To
be
be
held.
held. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I love it. So I need a copy of that.
Yeah, I had these. I was like, oh, I didn't have time to like do the whole campaign thing, but I would love to like, share some
Mhm.
prints and magnets and all the things of this, because I think it's so important to understand that, like, yes, we do carry the load,
We
right?
do.
But
And we're
also,
held in different ways. We're held
yeah,
in so many
somebody
different
can,
ways. If you've ever seen photos of a home birth, you have a doula, you have your midwife, you have the partner, you have the auntie, you have the grandmom, you have the kids. So we're held in so many different ways, but also talking about policy. How are we holding the mother? We're talking about institutions. What does that look like for your organization to hold and support Black birthing people? And so it just doesn't stop at the community. We're talking about legislation. We're talking about our community-based organizations and hospitals and institutions.
yes, I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that. And speaking of that, I'm going to hop over to Rep Curry, because I'm curious on the community level, like how your office works with organizations, partners, and leaders to bring, mental health resources or programming or education to the community.
Yeah, we work a lot with, so this May, is mental health awareness month. And so we were trying to figure out, okay, what can we do? Because a lot of people have mental health resources, resource fairs and things like that. And so I wanted to make sure that I was hitting a population of folks that we could really work on. And this May, we decided to do a really fun thing and not tell the seniors that we were going to have a mental health resource fair for them, because they won't necessarily, maybe want to come to that, but we're going to have a midday fun fair for them. So we're going to do a lot of activities, arts and crafts, a dance party, stuff like that, to talk about mental health around seniors. But
Mhm.
so we'll do activities like that. Of course, we're thinking about the mental health of for maternal health and what that looks like in the future. But a lot of times we'll work with the managed care organizations. I'll be honest. We'll do the different managed care organizations, and we'll pull them in and have give resources to folks. We're always referring folks to different places for resources, but really having those activities to help people to understand that we're working for them, and not we're working with them. You know what I mean? And not stigmatizing. And that's what I think a lot of people think about, especially in our communities. They don't want to think that they're being stigmatized.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that, Rep Curry. And I think that is so special to have an event for our seniors. Something that I have been thinking in these like conversations that we're not talking about is the reproductive health care and wellness of our aging population. I think that when we talk about these things, we concentrate on a certain number of folks, but it is another intersection. It is another marginalization that's not always brought up in the conversation. And we have to take care of our elders. It's so important to foster the intergenerational connections, to keep to keep moving and keep going. And their mental health matters too. They done seen some things, they done been around the block a couple
Absolutely.
times. You
Absolutely.
so I want our Asian population to thrive just as much as me and where I am in the Asian process, just as much as like our youth, and where they are in the Asian process. It's all connected. I just want to see my people thrive. That's all.
Yes, absolutely.
That is all. I want to encourage folks that if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat, and I will uplift your questions. And yeah, I think that we have really like kicked into like y'all was just flowing. Y'all was having like a very natural conversation. I'm like, where am I at in all this guided conversation, guided questions talk? But I think I want to lift like from each of you how as individuals, as a collective, as community, as neighbors, as family, do we foster community care? How are we taking care of ourselves and the Black birthing people that are around us? How do we reach out and touch, our besties and our aunties, our teachers, our elderly neighbor down the street? What as community can we do for community?
I think continuing to have the conversation, continuing to curate and create spaces where people can be themselves, to show up and not feel ashamed or fearful to have conversations, whether it is about your mental health, your reproductive health, right, your physical health, because there's a lot of shame and there's a lot of stigma that comes with that. So curating spaces for all of our populations, right, our teens, it's important that they understand their mental emotional health. And so continuing to curate these spaces and bringing these things into the community for the community. I think for us as clinicians and providers and community-based organizations, also recognizing that we can't do this work alone. And so, it's really important that we uplift collaboration over competition. It's important that we continue to lean on each other, lean on the expertise of our fellow providers and birth workers. And, just being at Harrisburg yesterday, it was just phenomenal to see the growth. So I was there last year, and to see the
beautiful.
growth this year was phenomenal. It
It's so
felt
beautiful.
so good just to be in the house and recognizing that there were so many familiar faces, but there were so many new faces, and the energy was so good. And so being able to continue to uplift one another, taking time for ourselves, but knowing that we have people that are on the ground. I say for Philly specifically, we are well resourced. We are well resourced on the ground, but we're also very siloed. And so reaching forward, reaching back, making sure that we're pulling folks up, that we're uplifting folks, that we are recognizing what others are bringing to the table to support this work, I think is really important. As we continue to lift and push forward, that we're continuing to pull those that are just up and coming in the field to do this work.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that, Jabina. This is not the first time that I've heard this. Like, Philly is so well resourced, and I'm like, if that is true, like, how come so many of our people are suffering or can't touch resources? And it's like, one group may be doing the thing that
Over
the
here, this one in the
group over
west, this
here
one in the
needs it.
southwest, right?
And listen, I'm trying to be a connector of all things, because people just, people are really honestly just trying to survive, just trying to get through their day, just trying to make sure their kids don't get hurt in the process,
Yes.
just literally just trying to make it, just trying to live. And so if I always say it's a responsibility for me to assist and help people at the point of my privilege. Like, even as a marginalized person, I know that I have certain privileges that other groups don't have, right? And so if I could, it's called using your powers for good. If I can help somebody at the point of my privilege, then I'm doing the work that I'm supposed to do. Rep Curry, same question. I want to give you an opportunity to respond about how we foster community care.
So I know that I was quoted yesterday, and I guess on Penn Live, I had made a comment yesterday at the presser about the fact that we live because I'm in Philly right now, dropping everybody off, but we live in an epicenter of resources, like Jabina just said. Here's the facts, though. We still are not getting the care that we need. So much like what Jabina said, it does feel like we have resources, but the problem is the silo. And I think what the Pennsylvania Black Maternal Health Caucus is our vision and our mission to do is to work to make sure, on those community engagement policy and policy work groups, that we are having folks come on and get to know one another. I can't tell you how many people handed me business cards and pamphlets about their small businesses that are doing this work, because there's so many of them. And this is awesome, right? But we also need to be able to stay connected, to have a consortium, like in the different areas of the Commonwealth, to build consortiums where folks can come together. If consortium's not the right word, like a collective, you know, because absolutely, you all know, the caucus, we're doing the work of the members. And what a caucus is really membership of the legislature, right? So that's why you've been hearing us say, hey, we have 60 members in both the House and the Senate. But we know our legislature is so much larger than that, right? We are doing that work. And then down here on the ground, there need to be consortiums that are built, or collectives, to be able to do just that, what Jabina said, having those resources spread around. I think what happens is we're all scared of the scarcity of those resources. Like, if I share with this person, am I going to be able to get a part of that? Or vice versa. And so we have to take the fear out of that as we continue to fund smaller organizations, right? Because I think it's like crabs in a bucket. It's like, okay, how much money is going to come down? How do I get this grant? How do I move this way? I know I need this. Like, having Salima on talking about her building, like, that's amazing. So, other people were listening. They're like, well, how can I get a building? How does that work for me? And so, as this work continues, we need to find, those funders that really believe in this work and will fund, the philanthropists out here will do it for us. And how that looks in our collective. what our collaborative collectives look like, and how we continue to move on the ground. Our job is to be legislators and to pass legislation, but it's also to get into the community. I know Rep Mays had a community baby shower last weekend that was amazing. And as she explained that event, it was really about the fact that, like you just said, in your privilege where you are, we get baby showers. We have families who are like, oh, we're having a baby in our family, or our best friends give us baby showers. For some women, that's their only baby shower, is the community baby shower. That's
Yeah.
it.
Mhm.
That's their one time to have a baby shower, right? And so those are the things that we need to continue to do for our community members, to help them feel supported, surrounded, like we've been talking about tonight, and given those opportunities to be great parents, because we need to have great kids out here to forge forward in our legacy for our children.
I love that. Thank you so much for that offering, Rep Curry. And I know that Jabina and the Maternal Wellness Village, they hosted the baby shower it was this weekend, right?
Mhm. It
Saturday?
was Saturday.
Saturday. Yes, another beautiful event. Um, community baby showers. They are wonderful. Do you have any reflections you want to share about the baby shower,
I
Jabina?
think that one, so BAE, BAE, Breastfeeding Awareness and Empowerment, and it was a collaboration between BAE and Oshun. And I think, again, when we're talking about collective care and community care, how do we build and bring together our resources and the support and our expertise? And so a part of that baby shower was also to focus on infant feeding, because there are times when folks don't have access to, I don't know what to do with this pump, I don't even know how to hand express. And so what we wanted to do was also bring that into the baby shower. But there were so many families that were so excited to receive the diapers, the wipes, the gifts. There was this mom that came who had twins, and they were about 4-month-old twins and a 2-year-old. And she came and tried with the stroller and the 2-year-old in hand. And I was just like, you know what, sit right here. I'm gonna get you everything you need, and we'll get you support to bring everything to your car. But she just felt so, it was just like this feeling of just like being thankful, and just, this is our community. And
Yeah.
so for me, it was just like, whatever you need. And that was minimal, right? That was diapers, wipes. Those are the basic things that people need. And
Mhm.
so if we as the community could wrap our arms around the community in that way, and just be that one organization to be able to offer that, that says a lot and means a lot, because we know that folks sometimes don't even have the bare minimum to support their families. And so for me, it was just like being able to see the joy. And Rep Curry, you talked about the joy, bringing that joy back. And I
Yeah.
think it's the joy, because our community, we want them to thrive. We don't want folks to just be out here trying to survive.
That's
And
right.
so it's so important that we uplift that joy. And it was so much joy this weekend. A lot of joy.
I love that. I remember when I first came to New Voices, and it was my like introduction to Black maternal health, and I came like in the height of COVID, and there was an initiative we had called the COVID-19 Relief Initiative, where we distributed diapers, wipes, and menstrual products. And I had to learn the connection, right? So I'm like, what does this have to do with like health? What does this have to
Mhm.
do? What does me, giving someone a case of diapers or wipes or menstrual has to do with Black maternal health? And along the way, I realized that just that like moment of relief, if
Mhm.
not just one less thing you got to worry about, right? If not just one less thing that has to come out of your pocket,
Okay.
right? Not being faced with or forced to having to make the decision of whether or not you pay your phone bill or buy a case of diapers, or car fare for work, or getting the menstrual care that you need,
Right.
if not just for that, right? And so as I started like doing these larger scale distributions and encountering Black mamas across Philadelphia, I was like, oh, like this is what it is. This is how we take care of it. It's a form of care. Mutual aid is a form of care and can relieve a lot of your mental health concerns. Sometimes just that worry of where is the next thing coming from is enough to send you down a rabbit hole. Um,
Absolutely.
so I'm grateful that we do have organizations that are on the ground that are taking care of our Black mamas that care just that much. And to your point, Jabina, I'm really looking forward to the ways that we work together to break down the silos. I think we are nearing the end of this conversation, which has been full, right? And continual. We can go on, and I'm sure that, as things continue to develop in the Black Maternal Mommy Bus for Pennsylvania, and Jabina back on the scene and feeling energized, that we will have more of these conversations, that it will open up so many more doors, and we can touch and impact community in magnificent ways. So I'm deeply grateful to you both for joining me on this evening to have another important conversation for Black maternal health. And as we close out this Black Maternal Health Week, Rep Curry and Jabina, is there one lasting thought that you want to leave with our folks about how they can continue to fortify themselves, as a mother, as someone who is, taking care of someone else? I remember in my own journey as a foster parent is when I became hyper aware
Mhm.
of how my mental health is impacted, and also hyper aware of what it means to navigate these systems and ways that you can be criminalized. And so, as someone who has some kind of like wherewithal when it comes to navigating difficult spaces, I often felt for the folks who may not have a clue, right? I was like, wow, if I, wasn't a special needs educator, I would know nothing about how to get an IEP for my child. If
Right.
I didn't have this experience, I wouldn't even know how to talk to this person. And there are people out here who are really just trying to move through it and have no idea about what to do, who to go to. Things are made so difficult to navigate and understand. So, how can people fortify themselves, uplift themselves, fill themselves to keep their cups full as they move through this life, continuing to be a Black mama, a Black parent, and a Black person?
I would definitely say share your story. Don't hold it in. Try to lean into being able to connect with other folks, other birthing parents, new parents. We host our Bay Cafes um, specifically for that. Lean into community. And we recognize sometimes that your bio family and blood family may not be there, but there are communities um, in Philly specifically. There are people out here. And so I recognize that when folks share their stories and get it off their chest, they're able to also support others. And so being able to just share your story um, and finding your space. I think there's so many villages. There's a village out here of support for Black birthing people in the city of Philadelphia, and with that, we can help you find the resources, get the access to the things because it's hard, it's challenging. It's challenging for us, so it's not easy. But when you have that support person or that organization that can help guide you to getting the resources and support that you need, we know closed mouths don't get fed. And so it's really important that we try to stay connected and share information, share resources so that people have access to them and they don't know that they exist.
And I love that. And oh, look at Beth Curry's face. Hey, girl.
I finally parked.
Yes. We
You've
glad
been
that
on the
you
whole
kept it
journey with
safe.
me. Right, coming off the turnpike to
Mhm.
dropping people off in Philly. So I'm finally part. I wanted to thank you, Jabina, for your comments. Really storytelling is huge. We know, I mean, listening to, the storytelling that goes on with Planned Parenthood, they have like that whole campaign where
Mhm.
it's storytelling, right? And so I have found my own healing and purpose in my advocacy and in my legislative work around storytelling.
Yeah.
Like, being transparent. And I tell people all the time, like, if you can't be transparent, how are you gonna make policy for other people? Our
Right.
lives are our lives. I am not made of Teflon. I am made of flesh and blood like everybody else. And we know you can't walk this earth without having a story.
Mhm.
Whether it's a joyous story or a tragic story, we have to be able to feel comfortable enough in our skin to tell our stories so that we can help others, right? And so I tell a lot about my stories. Even if people don't want to hear it, I still tell it. It
Mhm.
helps to heal. And so the thing that I would say as we move forward, on our call to action to continue to do this work is to make sure, and I'm speaking to myself when I'm saying this, is to make sure that we are really, I've been telling women, make sure you have a birthing plan. When I see pregnant mamas, I'm like, what's your birthing plan? And they probably look at me like I'm crazy. Like, wow, this lady asked me about a birthing plan. But I'm like, have you thought about a doula? Things like that. Just to people, I would say, Jabina, let's start a thing where we're asking people, what's your mental health
Mental
plan?
health plan. Yes.
What is your plan for your own mental health? Are
Mhm.
you seeing a therapist? Are you checking on yourself? Are you
Mhm.
making sure that when you're feeling anxiety or maybe depression or anything, feeling blue, outside of the maternal journey, just ourselves, the people who are doing this work, like you said, you step back for a moment. Some of us can't necessarily step back, but we can certainly put boundaries in. We can
Yes.
certainly say, hey, new voices, can't be on this call tonight because I need to take care of myself.
That's
One of
it.
the things that we don't do well is say no as
Mhm.
women and people who are doing this work. We just don't say no because we feel like we have to be there. I knew I wanted to be on this call today. You saw how I was navigating it, making sure I was keeping both hands on the wheel. But I think certain things are really important, and that's the point. Make sure that you're thinking about your boundaries and thinking about what you can say yes to and what you can say no to. And it's okay. That's okay. And I think that's a big part of checking your plan for your own mental health. And I will be the first to start that plan today. My daughter is sitting in the car with me. She's giving me a side eye. But we will start that plan today. A mental health plan. What are your boundaries? How do you plan to do something for yourself every day? Women don't breathe deep. My mom always told me that we are breathers, which causes cardiovascular issues. So make sure you're breathing deep. Make sure you're getting your water in. Make sure you're being active. These are all things that will help your mental health. And I'm speaking to myself as well. Thank you so much
There
for
you
having me
go.
on. This has been a very full week. It is not over for me. I still have another Black Maternal Health um, event to go to tomorrow down on Capitol Hill. So we're going to take Pennsylvania to Capitol Hill. Um, but
Awesome.
like I said, making that mental health plan is key to helping us to stay healthy and to be able to do the work on the ground. Thank you so much, New Voices, and to Jabina.
Thank you. So
Wonderful.
good to speak with you all.
Thank you so much for joining us, Rep Curry, and through the elements and through the turnpike and the traffic and all the things and everything that you offered for us today. Thank you for being one of our champions for Black maternal health. And we are definitely looking forward to the passing of all 8 bills of the
Yes.
Black maternal health omnibus here in Pennsylvania. And Jabina, I'm just so thrilled that we have finally had the opportunity to connect in this way. And I'm looking forward to continuing the work alongside you as we work for better outcomes for our Black birthing folks, and fortify the mental health of not just ourselves, but our community as well. Thank you both so much. I'm so deeply grateful.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Yay.
Be well. Stay well. Bye-bye.
Thanks so much. And of course, I want to thank all of you, everybody who watched. I was wrapping it up, but thank you for joining us on our live stream. You can share this video when we cut it off, and anybody who needs to hear this conversation, make sure they get it. It's just a link, y'all. Click share, and I'm hoping that you will work alongside of us as we continue in the work of reproductive justice and Black maternal health. Make sure you always keep it locked to New Voices. On Instagram, we are New Voices RJ, actually on all platforms. If you want to connect to our work, and I'm ready to plan the next Black Maternal Health Week. I am feeling energized by everything that went on this week and the things that we were able to create and accomplish. So I am proud of us, and the marathon continues. So thank you, everyone. Have a magical night, and I will see y'all soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.